Glenhagen Farm Retreat is 65 acres of beauty in Princeton, Illinois, and it's where youth and young adults can experience the wonders of God's creation. Thanks to a generous grant, youth without financial resources can now relax and recharge after living through this time of the pandemic. For more on Glenhagen's mission, we welcome Nancy Hagen. She is an accountant, musician, and Glenhagen's president, along with Andy Texan, who happens to be her husband, and he's also an attorney, jazz musician, and Glenhagen's vice president. And Andy and Nancy are members of Redeemer Lutheran Church in Hinsdale, Illinois. And we welcome Shauna Wills. She's founder and president of REACH, Refugee Education and Adventure Challenge. Welcome, everyone. Glenhagen was named after your father. Tell us about your father.
Okay, well, it's one of my favorite subjects, and I'll try not to talk forever and ever about him, but actually we built the house and the camp before we decided to name it Glenhagen, so the name came later, but my dad was born in 1922, he died in 1994, so he's been gone for a while. Was born on a farm near La Crosse, Wisconsin, one of 7 children, but his mom died when he was only 4. His family eventually moved to Chicago, and he and 3 brothers were in World War II. He lost a brother there. He had kind of a tough life growing up, but he had strong ideas about fairness and equality that he loved to share. And both my parents were compassionate individuals who respected people of all backgrounds, nationalities, religions. My dad was completely unafraid of anything, and he was interested in everything, and he loved the outdoors. And he would have really gotten a kick out of the farm and the camp being named after him. So he would have loved riding on the tractor, interacting with campers of all ages and beliefs. He was really just a tough Norwegian. He was a Norwegian in his ethnic background. He never complained about anything except for people who closed their minds and hearts to the needs of others. So he had a vision of society where resources are shared equally, and he would have loved the emphasis on caring for the earth that we try to promote at Glenhagen Farm Retreat. So we feel like his memory lives on at camp. We had kind of a good start in 2019, and then COVID happened. So we're really kind of in the process of reopening, and it's fun to celebrate my dad at the same time.
He sounds like such an inspiring and kind man. And so what a compliment to name all of this after him.
Well, and it was Andy's idea to name it after my dad. So that just came out of the blue, and I was like, oh, so yeah, so it's good. Yeah.
I love it. So what was the inspiration surrounding your creating and then implementing this retreat? I know your dad inspired a lot, but was there anything else that kind of pushed that forward for you?
Well, I think for me personally, we purchased this farmland just as an investment with some friends. And then we decided that 65 acres of the parcel was this recreational forested land with the creek running through it. And it was so beautiful. And I really never realized that part of Illinois was so hilly and so pretty, and the stars at night are amazing. And so we decided to build a house, and right away, between Andy and the architect, the house got bigger than I had envisioned. And so we started thinking maybe like retreat center kind of thing. And the house, it was big enough to have maybe 20 people come for a retreat. And there's a basement with a lot of bedrooms and bathrooms. And so then as we kind of spent some years, opening it up to groups, maybe a group of Catholic nuns came and had a retreat, and some church groups, we started thinking, well, wouldn't it be fun to have some tent camping? And so everything just sort of evolved, and we started building a pavilion, and we decided where to have everything. And just when it was getting to be really bigger than we thought in a lot of ways, we had an unsolicited grant gift from a group of Catholic sisters who came in and just really loved the idea. We fit into their criteria of things that they would like to give to. And so between that and other community people who came and were supportive and encouraging, and then we got groups that were amazing, like Shauna Will's group coming, and it just felt like, yeah, this is just meant to be. So it became really a group effort, and it started just from owning some property there. So
That's really neat.
yeah.
Oh. So when I'm sure folks are watching that have youth that this would be something they would be interested in, what can you tell us about the center, and what can youth expect if they come and hang out with you guys?
They're going to get to see the stars in the sky, walk on green grassy trails, watch a monarch butterfly feeding on milkweed, hear a great horned owl hooting at night, feel the water squishing between their toes as they walk in a creek and look for a frog or some tadpoles. They'll get to sing camp song fires around the campfire and cook some s'mores up, and maybe they'll just be able to sit quietly under a great oak tree. One of the really cool things is that this is a place where nobody else is present, and so they can be safe and peaceful, and it's a very special contrast, we've learned, for a lot of the kids who might live in an urban environment to actually be someplace that is so serene. From a physical facility standpoint, they'll get to have the benefit of some nice facilities. So if it's their first time camping, and it often is, it's not just going out and backpacking in the wilderness. So we've got a pavilion with a kitchen and some washrooms and a great kitchen gas grill fire pit. We provide the tents, some really nice pads to sleep on so they're comfortable. And we can have up to almost 40 people at a time. And then they get the full use, as long as they're there, of 65 acres of trails, creek, valley, and all the chance to just marvel at the birds and the other wildlife that are there. We have an organic garden. They can help us do some weeding, harvest some lettuce, and see that a salad doesn't just come from Jewel, and see what it tastes like to get something fresh out of the garden, and play on the sand volleyball court.
So it really is a time to be renewed, refreshed, as you said, safe, and to just, have that time with nature. And can adults come to this? Can anyone come?
Absolutely. Our goal is to share this with everyone who has a passion for God's creation and the stewardship of that wonderful gift that God's given us all. So we would welcome, a retreat of women pastors, for example, that wanted to be together and share and meditate. And one of the board members for our camp, we're 501c3 charity, Sister Glenna Zachor, is a Wheaton Franciscan nun, and she's actually created a prayer walk where she's taken Old Testament and New Testament passages and taken pictures of certain key places, because we know there's such great biblical imagery of the running stream, of the valley, of the hill, of the great tree. And so there's spots that she's marked out and given a passage from the scriptures and then a prompt to meditate or pray upon.
Shauna, let's head over to you, and I want to learn more about Reach. What is it, and how do you connect or work with Glenhagen?
Reach Refugee Education Adventure Challenge is an organization that I started in 2016 in kind of a direct response to requests from members of the refugee community, mostly parents who were concerned about their children who were facing some academic failure and bullying and a little bit of discrimination, and in some cases recruitment by gang members, because of course all these kids are growing up being resettled in the city of Chicago and some of our neighborhoods where it's a little bit more violent to grow up. So I created it because I wanted to give them another place and space to come together and feel what it really means to be in America. And so I think all of us can appreciate that this is a huge land and we've got beautiful, beautiful places to go and to see, but in many cases, refugee newcomers don't have those opportunities. And so Reach introduces refugee youth and their families to what we consider experiential learning opportunities that are focused on STEAM education, outdoor education kind of stuff, and adventure sports. ages 10 to 18 usually, male, female. Once you're registered, family members can attend Reach events as well. And so we run a series of camps throughout the year. And the way that I got in touch with Glenhagen Farm Retreat was on a particular summer I was planning. I was like, I really want to do some extended trips and try to get engaged with some other organizations. We really are big on partnering. And I just started doing a random search on Google, and looking for farms, camps, etc., that were in Illinois. And, there's a long list of them, but there was something about Glenhagen Farm that stood out for me, just because at that time you guys were still pretty nascent, but you had just a few pictures and this concept that really aligned with what Reach is about. And so I, randomly reached out hoping maybe somebody would respond. And sure enough, Andy and Nancy were quick to respond and say, hey, we want to hear more, let's do something. So I think it was as early as that particular summer that we brought a group out of about 25 refugee kids and had our first experience with them. That was pre-COVID. And then we had a little, moment of silence and quiet, and then we returned last summer. So it's been a really great experience.
And so with the grant then, how many more youth are able to attend because of that?
Well, we currently anticipate that we could provide the financing for a school bus and the food and waive all the camp fees for 5 or 6 groups that could have, 15 to 35 kids and staff. So we're really excited, and we hope that everybody talks to their friends who are on boards or leaders in organizations. This particular grant is focused on organizations, which could be churches, it could be refugee groups like Reach, it could be STEM education groups. We've had Project Exploration that serves kids in the CPS schools after school, particularly girls come out. Could be a synagogue, could be a mosque. So any entity that serves youth without financial resources is eligible for this grant, and it's first come, first serve.
Now, this could be for Andy or Nancy. How has your faith shaped this mission for Glenhagen?
Well, I think our faith, bottom line, teaches us to love and respect everyone, all others, and to give as much as we can and to share. And God created the world for everyone to take care of, not just to enjoy, but to take care of. So we have that underlying theme of care for creation. And honestly, I feel like the story of developing the camp is sort of like the loaves and fishes, because we started out with this little thing and this little idea, and then people came from all over the place, and groups came like Shauna's group, and funders came like the nuns that gave us some big grants. And so it's really felt like, it was meant to be. And it's just a great opportunity for us for learning too, we've just learned a lot about birds and plants and trees. And so really appreciating what creation is and how we can care for it. So.
And I like to just chime in, because I'd appreciate Shauna's perspective, because she's bringing kids that are not necessarily out of the Christian tradition. I think several of them, or many or most, could be Muslim based upon their attire. So be interested on their perspective. I know from a Christian perspective, Jesus always really emphasized the children and how we need to be respecting, honoring, caring for them.
It's true. With Reach, we are serving refugee youth who are coming from all over. Most of the time when we've come to visit, it's been almost probably 90 or 80% Muslim youth, and then the rest of whom are Christian. And I think the experience for any of them is the same, and that they all get some sort of a connection to God, or in their own way. They feel you could sense the calm and the relaxation almost immediately. And I think that there's a spirituality in that. And I don't know, Andy, how they talk about it when they get home, but I would think by the fact that they always want to come back, that it's a good message home to their parents. And I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but that's kind of my take on it, on how they're interacting there.
Shauna, have you seen anything with, or an influx, I guess, of needs with refugees and Ukraine and the war happening there? Has any of that affected you and what you're doing?
So the U.S. is still in the midst of resettling and managing the livelihoods of thousands and thousands of Afghan refugees who've been coming in since August. And we literally are this month just like resettling a huge batch more of those individuals. So at this moment, those are the people that Chicago in particular and most of the country is focused on, in addition to the 165,000 refugees that President Biden has approved for admissions this year. So you have to understand, we've got all these Afghans, more than 100,000, plus another 165,000 refugees from everywhere. And now he has just approved another 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. So the processing for all these individuals takes quite some time. We believe that similar to the Afghan refugees, there'll be an expedited kind of processing. So I would imagine that in the next year, REACH will be Ukrainian refugees as well, and perhaps we'll be visiting Glenhagen Farm with those refugee youth as well.
Now, Shauna, this will be the final question for you all. But Shauna, what do you see the future of REACH being? What is in your perfect world? What do you envision for it?
You know, I'm sure that Andy and Nancy can relate to this. There's a certain there's something about being a small grassroots organization where you don't want to lose that heart, because there's that connection that is so strong and so beautiful. And being able to have partnerships with organizations like Glenhagen Farm Retreat, that's so meaningful. But I also have a dream that we expand and have something similar to REACH across the country, because we have so many refugee youth coming in, and there's such a dramatic need to get them outside and get them connected to nature and to what's really beautiful in this world. So, you know, big vision would be replicate REACH across the country. Small vision is just keep doing what we're doing, keep building partnerships like the ones we have with Glenhagen Farm, because really every single child that we serve is a beautiful masterpiece, and that's all we really care about. Yeah.
And you can feel the love that you all have for both creation and people, and how important that is. So Nancy and Andy, the same question for you. What do you see for Glenhagen's future, or what kind of things do you envision for it?
Well, I think for us, because we're still so new, we would just like to have the facility used more often. So, I mean, it's not like it has to be every week, but it would be awesome if we had more and diverse groups coming and maybe staying a little longer, or just, you know, groups that are from different areas. They could be from the Quad Cities, although we love having the groups from Chicago. They could be more local groups. They could be 4-H groups. And maybe even having some of those groups that can learn from each other. So, I mean, just short term, we would just like to get that message out. And it's really amazing that we get a lot of encouraging words from people and groups that say, oh yeah, we really want to do it. And then it just kind of drops, because it really is a lot of work for the leaders. You know, we don't have staff. We have a camp director, part-time person, and there's us. So the group leader has to be an amazing person like Shauna, who's willing to do all that work and stay in the tent. And but those groups are out there. And so we just want to get the word out to have more people come. So, and what would you say?
Can I interject in a second? I just want to say, Nancy and Andy, you have set up such a beautiful layout. I mean, it is so easy. I'm just saying this to whoever's watching and who's thinking, I can't do this. It is so easy to just drive up in a bus, a van, whatever, let the kids out, find your space, feel comfortable and confident that they're safe. It's so easy to be able to say the restrooms are there. Here's a nice cozy pavilion. There's the fire pit. Here are the chairs. It's all right there. So while it's a camping experience, it's a completely, you know, facilitated experience. As soon as you walk in there, everything that you could possibly need is at your fingertips. So don't sell yourself short in terms of what you offer to the communities that come to you.
Thank you, Nancy, Andy, and Shauna. We appreciate you joining us and sharing your stories with us. I'm Leanne Noland with Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.